Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, sorry, we are starting late. I think I was just trying to switch from one network to the other. But finally, I've gotten a good one that can enable us to start. And so we are in week 7. After this week, we have one more class or one more week to round up. And that should be next week. When are you guys starting your exams?
We information technology are starting on Friday, sir.
Which Friday?
This Friday, 27th.
That means next week you have exams?
Yes, sir.
Then we cannot be teaching next week now.
We are starting with your course, 735.
This Friday?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that means we have to round up everything and they have to send you the 2 remaining slides. That is what it means.
Yeah, I think that's the best, sir.
I didn't know of that. I was just thinking your week is supposed to be next week. I didn't know that it's already due. So we'll look at this particular topic we are to cover today, and that is on multimedia design and development strategies. Introduction here says multimedia applications, like every other system, involves management of financial, human resources, equipment, and time, and so on for its objective to be achieved. So if you are going to develop a multimedia application, you will manage money that will be used in building it. You manage humans, experts that will come together to help you build it. You manage equipment or hardware. You also manage the software and the time too. Otherwise, these resources are not managed together, you'll not be able to get your output out easily. So the success or otherwise of multimedia applications will depend on the amount of knowledge that you put into it. The more knowledge you have, the more you are able to get it right. The lesser knowledge you have, the more problem you have when you are developing it. And then apart from the knowledge you put into it, the appropriateness of the equipment deployed. Are you putting the right equipment? For instance, you want to develop an application and it tells you that the minimum system requirement is a computer that has a speed of about 1.22 gigahertz, and then it has a memory of about 4 gigahertz. If you don't get that particular configuration right, you may end up deploying the system and it will not work at all. Then you're also talking to consideration to critical factors like user peculiarity and cost. So multimedia applications must be designed, developed, and deployed within a given budgetary provision and timing. The life cycle model of multimedia, when you say life cycle, you mean the process starts from a particular beginning, gets to the end, but it doesn't end there. When it gets to the end, you find something happening that takes it back to the beginning again. So it moves over and over again. That's why it's called a life cycle. So multimedia applications development follows the system or software development life cycle. And the software life cycle is a process which is organized in some order or sequence, structuring activities as a whole. What does the software life cycle involve? It involves activities that have to do with planning, design, development, testing, and deployment. It involves constraints or problems that you may encounter, like time, the size of the project, budget estimates, and it also involves resources like manpower, hardware, and software. And when you put all of them together, they help to produce an intended output. So a process uses resources subject to constraints and must have an entry and exit criteria. And the people that design multimedia, whom you call multimedia designer, must take into consideration the following. 1, the relationship between a multimedia application size and the time required to design and develop it. If the size is very small, it means the time required to design and develop it will be very fast. But if the size is quite large, it means you take a lot of time to design and develop it. And then you also look at the relationship between the size and quantity and quality of manpower required, because you are going to talk about the people who are going to come, how many of them will come in, and what are their qualifications. That is where the quality comes in. What are their knowledge? What are their expertise It will not be okay for you to go and get 200 persons and only 2 persons there know how to program. The other 198 don't know anything. You just hired people because of number. No. Multimedia systems development life cycle, we can break them down into the following processes or phases. The first one is preliminary needs assessment. Here, the multimedia designers, in consultation with his client here are project owners, subject experts, and intended users. What do they do here? They establish the general task which the proposed multimedia application is to perform and the constraints on its production. So at this beginning, they try to talk about every task that can be performed throughout the sequence of steps that will be used in developing the multimedia system. And the main concerns in this phase include you capture the ideas and requirements of the clients. The client in this case will be the users who end up using the system, the management staff who authorize the system to be built. And so they are the stakeholders. And so you must be able to capture the ideas and requirements. If you don't capture the ideas and requirements of the users who end up using the system, you may end up building the system and they reject it, they will not use it. And once they don't use it, system is not accepted. That means it dies a natural death. Secondly, you identify the potential audience and users of the application. You find out the benefit that will be gained from developing the application. There will be no benefit, no need building it. There must be some benefit. You evaluate the feasibility and cost of the entire project. Feasibility here means the possibility of building it. And then the cost you are going to, the money you are going to spend in building it. Or including all the tasks of production, testing, and delivery. Second step will now be analysis and design after you have done your preliminary needs assessment. And the analysis focuses on the flow of data and on the processes that will be carried out on this data to achieve the intended output. So it is made up of an overview. You describe the project goals and the approaches you are going to use. The storyboard, you give us a graphic outline of project interface, navigation, and key visual components. At your level, your storyboard may have to do with maybe a flow chart or data flow diagram or use case diagram, which you now use in describing the project interface, navigation, and key visual components. We also talk about the application flow, a textual outline of all project components, timing, and navigation option. You now used your own words to describe every component of the project, the timing, and the navigation option. Then content description, detailed description of all content, including photographs, computer graphics, text, video, voiceover audio, music, sound effects, animation, and so on. Then content acquisition plan, assignment of interactive multimedia, customer and third-party responsibilities in gathering, altering, and creating specific content components. Then you talk about implementation strategy. What are those strategies you are going to put in place for implementing the project, the system at the end of the day? So you plan detailing all tasks, technology, and performance benchmarks that will be required for the remaining project phases. The budget and the schedule, detail of cost, when are you going to deliver each of the components, and the milestones associated with project deliverables. Project deliverables mean the output you are getting at each stage of the project. You give it a timing. That is what you call the milestone. So design involves the process of determining how the objectives outlined in the software specification will be satisfied. And the specification is used to construct a design for the multimedia application, including program details, files, records, and so on. And it must be emphasized that the focus at this stage is on the logical and physical structures and the processes which access them. You are not building your software yet. You are trying to bring out the logical flow, the diagram, how this component is related to the other, and so on. Then after that, you now go into testing and debugging. So like all software, after design, you go to testing and debugging. Testing and debugging is an important and time-consuming phase. Before you test and debug, it means you've already finished building the software. And there are two phases of testing, namely alpha testing and beta testing. For the alpha testing, you do it in-house. Software has been produced. You now test it with some developers that are around. Let them test it. Those people that were involved in building the application. Each of them will test it with some fictitious or live data and tell you whether it is working or not. Then beta testing, you now bring it to where it is to be used and ask the actual users to help you do the testing. In this case, it will be the real users. Those people who are involved in developing the multimedia application should not be involved in the beta testing. Then deployment, maintenance, and review. After you have tested, you have now ascertained that the product is okay. It's still within the confines of your office. So at this stage, you now deploy it. Deployment means you are now sending it to where it will be used. And there are two issues to be considered before a multimedia application is deployed. First one is delivery tools, and the second one is deployment strategies. What are the tools you are going to add to the multimedia system? Are you going to put a manual? Are you going to add people that will help them do the training? Are you going to give them a demo on how the software should be used? These are what you may call the delivery tools and maintenance components too. Then deployment strategy. There are several strategies for deployment. Are you going to deliver it straight and they start using it straight? Or are you going to say, oh, you have a manual system in place. Why not use it and be using this automated system side by side? And at the end of the day, you can now determine which is better and you move to it. So there are several deployment strategies you have to think about. Then maintenance comes up after you have started using the software or the multimedia application. What it means is that as you have been using the application, there might be one or more problems that may come up. Maintenance means identifying this problem. When you finish identifying them and how you are going to go about correcting them, review will now help you go through the components and do some correction. The moment you do that correction, the software comes back to the first step again. You are starting from the first step when you are doing the correction, and that is why it is called a life cycle. There are some additional issues involved in multimedia content and technical design. First one is content design. The content now, the messages you are going to put inside, the write-up, how are you going to design it? So it deals with what to say and what media or tool to use. So in multimedia, there are 5 ways to format and deliver the message. Mainly, you write the message, you illustrate the message. When you write the message, you are typing it. It will be there. You illustrate the message, you can use a picture to illustrate it. You wiggle the message, you can flash the message for people to see it off and on. Hear the message, you can use audio content to put the message so that they can hear it. Interact with the message, you design it in such a way that for anybody to use it, he must find himself interacting or sending some small messages to that particular message. If replies, there's a form of interaction. Technical design. Technological factor may also limit the effectiveness of the multimedia presentation. Assuming you don't have enough video capability on your hardware, it will be difficult. Your memory is not enough, there will be problem. Delivery mode, are you going to deliver it offline or online? Those are some of the things you also have to think about. So video mode and computer platform has to be taken into consideration. What platform are you going to use? The memory and disk space required, do you have enough? And then the delivery mode. Then visual design, you have to talk about the themes and the style of the presentation that you are going to be making. Are you going to design it well? Then the pace and running length guideline. How fast should it be? And how long should it run? Then the basic layout. How do you navigate from one part to the other? The layout, is it user-friendly or not? You also have to put that into consideration. And then so we have to move to human-computer interaction and user-centered design. Human-computer interaction is the field of study that is concerned with the interface between humans and all forms of computer systems. And it is often regarded as the intersection of computer science, behavioral sciences, design, and several other fields of study. Interaction between users and computers occurs at the user interface, which includes both software and hardware. The HCM defines human-computer interaction as a discipline that is concerned with the design, evaluation, and implementation of interactive computing systems for human use and with the study of major phenomena surrounding them. The human-computer interface can be described as a point of communication between the human user and the computer. Humans understand their own language. Computer also understands its own language. Humans do not understand the language of the computer. Neither does the computer understand the language of human. So there must be a form of interaction, a meeting point where humans can communicate to the computer, and then there will be an intermediary that will translate from the human form to the computer form and vice versa. And so that is what makes the interface to be so smooth and flowing. So the flow of information between the human and computer is defined as a loop of interaction. And it has several aspects to it, including the task environment, where the conditions and goals set upon the users are described. The machine environment, the environment that the computer is connected to. It could be a laptop in a college student's hostel room. The areas of the interface, that is non-overlapping areas which involve processes of the human and computer that does not pertain to their interaction. Input flow begins in the task environment as the user has some task that requires using the computer. Output the flow of information that originates in the machine environment. And it has to do with feedback loops through the interface that evaluates, moderate, and confirm processes as they pass from the human through the interface to the computer and back. Goals of human HCI, human-computer interaction. It is concerned with methodologies and processes for designing interfaces. That is, given a task and a class of users, design the best possible interface within given constraints. It's also concerned with the methods for implementing interfaces, like software toolkits and libraries, efficient algorithms. It's also concerned with techniques for evaluating and comparing interfaces, and also concerned with developing new interfaces and interaction techniques. And lastly, is concerned with developing descriptive and predictive models and theories of interaction. So, okay, not two types. I think there should be about 3 types of user interfaces. Interfaces that allows you from the outside to interact with the computer inside. The first one is the command line interface, which most of us are not used to. We used them when we were still learning computer science in the 90s. And it's a mechanism for interacting with a computer operating system or software. In this case, you type the command to perform specific tasks. There's nothing to drag with a mouse. There's nothing to click. There's no icon or menu. All you need to do is to type. You want to print, you get the command for printing, type it on the interface, on the menu, prompt, and it will execute it straight. It's unlike the other one that you are used to, where you drag, you click like that. This one, there's nothing to click. You type all the commands. So this method of instructing a computer to perform a given task is referred to as entering a command. The system waits for the user to conclude the submitting of the test command by pressing the enter key, which is a descendant of the carriage return key of a typewriter keyboard. Command line interface, to give you an example of it, is your ATM machine. When you get there, there's nothing you are dragging. All the commands you are going to enter are via the keypad. You are not going to enter a command through your voice. You enter it through the keypad, maybe your PIN, select your account type, talk about the amount you want to withdraw, tell us whether you want to perform any other transaction or not. Everything must be typed. So that is a command line interface. So a command line interpreter receives, analyzes, and executes the requested command. Command line interpreters are often used by programmers and system administrators in engineering and scientific environments, and by technically advanced personal computer users. Second interface is that one that we are used to, that involves drawing, graphics. You click, you drag, you move. So that is what you call graphical user interface, which is a type of user interface that allows people to interact with programs in more ways than typing, such as computers, handheld devices. So portable media players or gaming videos, household appliances, and office equipment with images rather than text command also use graphical user interface. A GUI offers graphical icons and visual indicators as opposed to text-based interfaces. You don't type any command. Everything is, you click on it, you drag it, and the actions are usually performed through direct manipulation of the graphical elements. In this case, we use mouse. A GUI may be designed for the rigorous requirements of a vertical market. Examples of GUI are touchscreen, point-of-sale software used by waitstaff in a busy restaurant. The same touchscreen is what you use on your Android phone. Self-service checkout used in a retail store. ATM machines, there are some that allow you to touch the screen, press an icon, and then it starts activating the command. It doesn't allow you to type, you just touch the screen to activate the command. That is a GUI. Airline self-ticketing and check-in, information kiosks in the public space, like a train station or a museum, automobile navigational system, and touchscreen multimedia centers. They all use GUI. Then the third one is zooming user interface, ZUI. The zooming user interface is a related technology that promises to deliver the representation benefits of 3D environments without their usability drawbacks. It's a logical advancement of the GUI, blending some three-dimensional movement with two-dimensional or 2.5D vector objects. Design methodologies. We have user-centered design, elements of user-centered design, iterative design, task analysis, display design, interaction design. I think they are all explained in more details on your material because we couldn't leave them here. Evaluation method in ACI, method of evaluating human-computer interface. You have usability testing, testing how the users see the system, how they perceive it. You have heuristic evaluation. You have cognitive walkthrough, going through the system to see what it contains. Then you have HCI models and laws, and then future developments. Then we now also have multimedia structures and tools. Different types of multimedia structures. We have the linear structure, hierarchical structure, multi-track structure, interactive story structure, web story structure, virtual space structure, modular structure, and simulation. These are the different structure and tools used in multimedia. Then we also have authoring tools, features of authoring tools and categories of authoring tools. I think they are described briefly inside your material. Authoring metaphor, types of authoring capabilities, and software tools. Maybe for your next class, those people who are doing this course next session, I think I will summarize some other parts and put more content into this heading. Assembling a multimedia development team. For you to bring up a multimedia development team, there are some experts you have to look out for. First of all, you have a project manager who may be in charge of the overall project, including planning and organizing the project. You have a graphic designer and art director. A graphic designer is someone who can undertake the design of all the graphics inside the multimedia system. You have the script content writer and science communicator, somebody who may be in charge of writing the script and content. Based on what you have in mind, you describe it to the person will help you translate it into a form that may be appealing to your users. You have the sound designer and sound engineer who will design the sound background and foreground so that if there's any voice over or audio output, the person will design it for you. You have the videographer and video producer who takes care of the video content. You have the subject matter expert. That is an expert that may know so much about the particular course you want to deploy. It will be a subject matter expert. Then the instructional designer, the person who will help you design how the lecture or material should be structured so that it can be delivered well. So in this case, the instructional designer may tell you that the content should be divided into 8 chapters or 8 weeks and tell you the goals and objectives of each week, how it should look like. While the subject matter expert will tell you what and what should be included in each of the courses. Then you have multimedia programmers who could help you carry out some programming tasks in the multimedia system, including helping to build it at the end of the day. Then the quality assurance engineer, the expert who will come at the end of the day to check everything you have designed, how it is being used, Does it meet up with the requirement? Is it properly designed? And will it give you more benefit for the money you spend? That is the job of the quality assurance engineer. I think to conclude this part of the class, I just learned that you have your exam coming up on Friday. So I'm just scared. And meanwhile, I just relaxed thinking that by next week I will round up. So that means I have to round up today. List the various ways or types of authoring tools and describe their functions and features. How is a graphic designer different from an art director? How does human-computer interaction improve the interaction between user and computer machine? What are the importance of good technical and visual design? What do you understand by the term human-computer interaction? So let me start from there. What do you understand by the term human-computer interaction? Can I get a response? What do you understand by the term human-computer interaction? Nobody to volunteer?
It describes the communication between human and computer.
Okay, it specifies how human should be able to communicate with the computer, interact with it, and vice versa. I think you are correct there. Then how is a graphic designer different from an art director? How is a graphic designer different from an art director? You don't know that.
Graphic designers are the ones that build content, for instance, like let's say flyers
Yes.
and posters. While art directors are the ones that, let's say, for instance, you go for a movie production, the people that would like direct, like they'll put things in place and make sure everything goes as planned.
You are correct. So can we ask our questions now before we round this part of the class? I apologize that it was a bit fast because I was trying to meet up. Maybe I could take the next class almost immediately after this. So can we ask questions before we are done with this class and go for the next class?
So the question I want to ask is not even part of this lecture.
Okay.
Is the pixel, that pixel calculation part. If we can go back to it and you can explain it.
But they've done it on your WhatsApp. So what is the problem?
No, just like to give for that, touch it a little.
What are you? No, do you want? So you don't trust your mates?
Okay, Sha. Don't worry, it's fine. I've seen it
follow
there.
up what you do on your platform. I will be laughing. You have so many scholars in that class. There are so many things they brought out. So when you talk about pixel calculation, what are you interested in?
Just for you to throw more light on it. That's all. But don't worry, just continue.
No, if you have a concern about that.
No, it's just that someone asked me to explain, so I could not explain properly. So
and the person could not even ask the question now. Is the person part of this class?
But part of this class, person in the group chat does not talk.
And
so
the person doesn't come for our class at all.
I don't know for him.
I would have preferred the person to ask the question his or herself, so that let me know the concern of that person, where the person doesn't understand. If I'm explaining, I know what I'm explaining.
Okay, sir. I will call him now to come online.
Please call. I'll be very happy. So we can. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yes, sir. I want to know the essential features of the multimedia computer components. The features of multimedia computer components.
Madam, that was highlighted in one slide or the other now. So what is the issue? Does it mean you are not reading the slide?
I'm reading the slide, but the question is confusing.
It's not confusing, it's direct. It's a direct question.
What's the question again?
Essential features of multimedia components.
Okay, so the notes now is highlighted.
It's direct, so I don't know what don't you understand there? Let me see if it's what I can explain. Hey, madam.
From what I got before, I was seeing audio, images and text. I just want to clarify myself so I don't
Audio,
mix up
images, and
the...
text are not the features. Those are the components. Multimedia is the components of multimedia are audio, pictures, or graphics, video, sound, and text. Those are the components, not features. Features are the attributes or characteristics, which we also highlighted. I think it should be second class or first class. Who can remind us which class was he highlighted? They are not saying anything. I'm coming, let me check for it. Essential features of multimedia components. I know it was covered. We talked about hypermedia. No, that's not it. So let me move for the notes. Define multimedia, did the introduction, benefits of multimedia, applications of multimedia, classification of multimedia, multimedia data elements. Then
I think it's the second class, sir.
I'm looking for it. I will get it out. Once I get it, I will remind you so that we'll use that one to round up the class for today and then go for the next class. So this one will have about hypermedia. Features are not here. Hypermedia development tools, no. Hypertext, no. Hypertext and hypermedia, no. Document structure, no. That is the second note I'm looking at. It's not in the second class. It's not in the second class.
It should be the third class.
Yeah, I'm checking. I'm opening the third slide now. Interactive multimedia and metamedia. That's what you have. Yes. Interactive multimedia. Components of interactive multimedia. That is there. Metamedia. Issues in multimedia. Characteristics of multimedia system. That is what you mean by features.
Yes.
Features and characteristics are the same. Multimedia system has 4 basic characteristics. So what is the confusion there? And the 4 are just highlighted here. Slide number 12 in the third slide I gave to you. The 4 basic characteristics are highlighted. So what is the problem, madam?
Okay, I just wanted to be sure, sir. You know, if that features is the same thing with characteristics.
You are very funny. Very, very funny. Desirable features of a multimedia system. Characteristics of a multimedia system is different from desirable features. That is what you desire from a multimedia system when you are about developing it. You now have very high processing power, multimedia capable file system. You have data representation file format, efficient and high input output, special operating system. That is for a multimedia system, when you want to develop it, the features that you desire it to, that are desired for it to work well, is what we are talking about. It's different from the characteristics of a multimedia system that is already operational. So when they ask you the question, desirable features is different from features. They are not the same. So I don't go and make the mistake of answering one for the other. Any other question? Okay. We can end the class now and then give yourself 5 minutes. We'll start the next class.